chapter clicked in to College Volleyball Weekly on Viral Volley Media. Now here's your host, Rob on mic.
Hey, good day, everyone. College Volleyball Weekly Men's Top 20 NCAA Men's Volleyball Championship Edition. 3 of the 4 of the coaching panel on board. That's Jay Hostick of George Mason, Theo Edwards of CSUN, and Dan Friend of Lewis. And we can't tell everyone where Dan's at. He's somewhere in Ohio. We'll just say that. But important week here in NCAA Men's Volleyball. Before we talk about a lot of the post-conference awards, want to touch up on some news and essentially just give an update on the Grand Canyon discontinuation of the program. Heard that they had one of the Grand Canyon executive board meetings today, and a few people who are trying to stay the program sat in on it and basically said nothing got accomplished. So moving forward, which means legal action, is from what I'm understanding. So unfortunate situation, but there's a lot of people who are signing that petition and jumping on board to that. And unfortunately, another program being cut, University of Utah Beach program, but we watch out for all of our own on this one. And the administration seems to be making excuses due to lack of championship facilities. We are discontinuing this program. And then, of course, like there's no beach volleyball in our conference, blah, blah, blah. Well, the alumni said, well, you can use my championship facility. That's pretty awesome. And we're seeing what they're going to do, if they're going to balk at it or what. But the other news was also the NCAA ruling, which I'm sure Jay is going to touch on, because I've been trying to track the back and forth on it. But according to Jay, there's good news because the judge is holding firm to grandfathering in the roster limit cuts. But I'll let you explain it.
Yeah, it's just it's one of those roller coaster rides. We've been up and down and up and down and up and down, and apparently the back and forth between the lawyers of the NCAA and the judge. I think the latest update was that the NCAA lawyers were not willing to discuss, and Judge Wilkins said, "No, this is something that I'm standing firm on, and if you don't fix this, I'm not signing it." Which is really eye-opening. I got to applaud her for standing firm on that. And one of our coaches at UC Clapping right now made a mention that if it doesn't get signed, that puts us back to status quo, which means everybody gets whatever they have now, and that's going to be a little bit of a conundrum, because you got some programs with more than $4.5 scholarship dollars coming, and the roster limits are not now part of this. How is that all going to work? But we'll get to that. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I'm just holding firm the belief and the hope that the judge gets her way, and there's a solution that works for everybody moving forward. And I think Dan had some eye-opening information as well.
Yeah. So I mean, ultimately, I sit on a Division II connection committee that deals with all Division II collegiate championship sports. So it's not just men's volleyball. I do think the NCAA lawyers have kind of come to some compromises where they're going to approach the judge with some options. And I think that comes at the end of the week, and we'll kind of see where that goes. And it has to do with the roster limits and kind of where that is, or if it's grandfathered in and what it looks like. So I think we'll find out in the next week or so whether she accepts those, whether they're good enough. And if they're not, what does that mean? Like we talked about, where Theo said, hey, maybe if that doesn't happen, we stay status quo. If she does say, hey, this is good enough, then you could see that case kind of move forward from there. So
what I think is going to be interesting is just the implications, right? You've got an entire roster at Grand Canyon that those players are concerned. They don't know if it makes sense to even stay. Like Rob was talking about, the discussions that are being had about attempting to keep the program, but a lot of them are trying to find homes, and the decision that this judge makes ends up really impacting the number of opportunities that are available, especially considering the timing of this whole thing going down and where a lot of these student athletes are going to end up. I mean, it's really quite crazy. It's a crazy time in NCAA athletics.
Yeah, but I don't think, even if the judge says no, we're headed this direction. Grand Canyon is still cutting their program, which is super unfortunate. But we're headed down that pathway where it's like they're going to pay athletes and they're going to move into some space. We're just not sure exactly what it looks like yet. It's too far down moving in that direction. So,
yeah. Well, with that, we'll be following this. Whatever episodes we have remaining this season, which I'm assuming at least one after the national championship. So we'll get more information that way. But I always want to update all of our listeners and viewers with what's happening with the panels teams, because we're all knocked out officially, even Brad. So let's talk about the end of your seasons. Let's start with Dan here. He's in the bottom right-hand corner of my screen. And talk about your Lewis Flyers, how the season went for you.
I thought we had a great year. I think, ultimately we run into a hot Loyola team that we were fortunate enough to beat a couple times in regular season, but that we're playing great volleyball at the end, and lost to those guys in the semis. And you saw those guys kind of, run through Ohio State in the finals, and hopefully they can represent the MIVA conference well when they play Pepperdine, who got hot as well in the MPSF in this 4-5 matchup, which will happen Thursday evening, which should be fantastic. But yeah, and then we had some guys that had some postseason recognition in the All-American stuff. So congrats and kudos to those guys. OG was a beast for us, and he had an awesome year. And then Nico again was what I think is one of the best liberos in the country. And then two seniors for us who have been super impactful the past 4 years. Max Rocket and Tyler Morgan were able to pull in some honorable mention stuff. So really stoked that postseason recognition from the coaches and that stuff that was happened for those guys.
Well, we're to go counterclockwise. That'd be Theo Edwards of CSUN. I'm sure we'll have a lot to share. That'll overlap. So go ahead and go.
Yeah. So I mean, it's always bittersweet. I think Dan hit it on the head. You have a really great year, and I thought our guys played incredibly tough in the Big West Championship, and went up against a really great Irvine team. And I think looking here at the stats, we out hit them 362 to 338. But it was probably one of the highest level matches that I had seen all season. We had 4 guys in double-digit kills, and just played some really, really great volleyball front to back. And it was just a tale of two really great teams just going at it. And at the end of it, Hilaire Heno, who last year's Player of the Year, was just absolutely fantastic and kind of capstoned his career with an incredible match that ended up getting them just over the top of us. I think we had 3 match points in the set 5. When you lose that way, you're that close. It feels like man, you'd love to get one back, right? One more swing, one more play changes the course of at least that playoff championship. But similar to Dan, we had 3 guys recognized as All-Americans. Jalen Phillips, first team All-American. Donovan Constable, this is his second time as honorable mention, and a 2-time All-American, ending his career, which was just absolutely fantastic. And then our freshman middle, Stilian De La Bosoff, had a fantastic season as well, hit over 500 on the year, and again, another All-American. So I thought it was a fantastic year for us. And I think Matt Houlihan posted the what if, right? Like, what if we had 16 teams and what that would look like? And I think it'd be a lot of fun. But we're destined for some great matches in this NCAA tournament, and excited for the volleyball that's going to be played this week.
I'll piggyback off yours. UC Irvine had an exit after literally dueling it out in a barroom brawl with the Matadors. That went an extended 5th set, and a phenomenal play. Ran into a very hot Hawaii team, and everyone knows, and I'd say this endearingly, that's a home favorite match for Hawaii. Anyone that plays Hawaii in Hawaii, they've got extra juice on their team. And, if you're playing against them, you hate it. But, man, it was such a great and electric atmosphere in that semifinal, and, of course, eventually the final. But Hawaii was just too much. They turned it on, and Kurt Neusterer really stepped up, of course, always in the clutch. We need that big point. Neusterer is always there. But Adrian Rohr, Luis Sakanoko, and then Finn Kearney is going to be the one to watch. I think he just is named as some U21 team for USA. So he's going to be one of the opposites to watch coming up in the years here. Long Beach ends up taking actually Hawaii ends up winning the Big West tournament and getting the automatic. And of course that meant at large for Long Beach State. So, but it was an insane tournament. We were all, if you're Pacific Coast time, up to 1, 2 in the morning. I mean, every match was just incredibly long, but so entertaining. And kudos to all the teams in that tournament. Even Brad, they had a 5-setter to kick off the tournament and another brutal late night. But it was so fun to watch and see them turn it. And Rick, credit to Rick, injuries, tweaking everything, putting in the lineup and battling till the end. I love the action that we saw at the Big West. So with that, let's jump over to Jay,
Rob, I
yeah,
want to chime in one more time. We stayed an extra day to watch that match between Hawaii and Irvine, and I want to give a lot of props to the Hawaii fans because they definitely know how to put on a show and know how to make it feel like a national championship. I mean, 10,000 fans, and they backed that team in a way that was just unbelievable. I think Irvine was a great team all year, but Hawaii came in and just played some fantastic volleyball. But the atmosphere was one of the most unique that I have seen, even in Big West championships of the past. The Hawaii fans are just great volleyball fans, and really, really, really held it down for their home team. And that home court advantage is quite the advantage. We saw that for sure.
Yep. All right, Jay, tell us about the EIVA and your team, of course.
Yeah. I had a relatively young squad this year, and I was really had some high hopes. I knew the EIVA was not going to be as strong maybe as it was in previous years, but I thought everybody was kind of dead even, and it kind of proved itself that throughout the course of the year. Our guys fought tooth and nail the entire year, and we tooled around with a bunch of different lineups to see what would stick. And unfortunately, we never really found the perfect combination, I think, until the last few weeks of conference when, one of our young guys or one of our older guys, I'm sorry, Liam French, kind of found his rhythm and was starting to hit the ball the way that we always thought he could. And a couple of young middles that were doing some nice things. And, we had an opposite who was starting to figure out some things. And I thought over the course of the year, our freshman libero, did a really nice job keeping us in system. And so, we got to the semifinals and unfortunately faced a really good Princeton team that night. And Nero Mini had, 20 some odd kills, hit almost 500 on the night. And, that's a tough thing to recover from. But we are still right there, almost extra innings in the fourth set to take it to 5. And who knows what happens at that point. But I was really happy with how we finished the year. And it bodes well for us for the next 2 or 3 years because we are relatively young. And so I'm really happy about that. And, the guys worked hard all year and they were bought in and they were doing all the right things. It just, like most seasons for most teams, you kind of have some ups and downs and some ins and outs and some rights and wrongs. And you kind of try to put it all together when it matters most. And I thought we were playing the best volleyball of our season at the end of the year. And that's what you want to do. So, but hats off to Penn State. They're going out there. They're playing Hawaii this week and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to jump over to the coaches of the year because we talked about the players enough, but I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on anything that was attention grabbing during the conference tournaments. Just anything, just throw out there. I thought I'd throw a hot question out there to see if any match, any team really grabbed your attention as they battled through. So feel free to just jump in as you if you have one.
I think.
Well, go ahead.
I just mentioned, I thought the Mount Olive Belmont Abbey match was probably not the most surprising, but I think the one that everybody thought Mount Olive was going to win, and Belmont Abbey did a nice job. Derek did a nice job getting his guys ready, and they have some experience. And I think that might be the difference maker for Belmont Abbey is that they've been there, done that, know what this feels like. And I didn't watch the match live, but I watched some of the points afterwards, and it was a really high level match. And Belmont Abbey's a handful. UCLA has got them in the first round. And, I think everybody would say UCLA is the favorite, but don't count on Belmont Abbey. Now that they've been there and they know what it feels like and they understand the lights being on and, everybody looking at them, you never know. They could steal one. And you catch UCLA on a bad serving night and a bad serve receive night, you never know what can happen. So that was the one match that I think stood out to me the most.
Yeah. How about you, Dan? You had something on there?
Yeah, I mean, I had a couple, but I don't want to steal Theo's. But I mean, ultimately, you have Damon, upsetting. Not upsetting, but I think St. Francis was hosting. It was at their place, and I thought they put themselves in a good position, and they've got a talented group, and then we're able to host the first round. So kudos to those guys and taking that. And I think the other one is Pepperdine. Pepperdine beating UCLA. Pepperdine hosts again. We talk about. They're hosting the tournament, and it's a unique gym. It's a little bit smaller and maybe not as open space as some of the other arenas. And they take down UCLA, and then they get into the final, and they win that. And so I think Jonathan Winder, Coach of the Year for the MPSF, well-deserved and well-earned. And, I think that's going to be a great first round matchup. Loyola and Pepperdine. And Loyola won the first time around, so you're going to see kind of a rematch of the regular season.
Yeah, I think you got to mention Charlie Wade, right? And I think there was a lot of ups and downs for that Hawaii team, and some injuries that they dealt with, and again, back to what Dan was pointing out, right? That, and I talked about it a little bit, but that home court advantage is a big deal, and not necessarily in the Big West. It's voted on and decided early before the season, and so we knew that Hawaii was going to be hosting it, and that they'd have a lot of ammunition. But takes some great coaches to make some changes and put the right guys in the mix, especially as you did battle through some of the injuries. And even with Hawaii, in Hawaii's case, they were going through different outside hitters just in the last 2-3 weeks of season, and trying to find a combination that could really help them get there. I thought Charlie Wade did a fantastic job, and obviously with Finn Kearney jumping into the lineup and Wade's ability to use his son at certain times of the matches and get some serving runs, and he just did a fantastic job and took advantage of the home court. But back to the volley talk conversations, there were points in the year where some of the fans were saying we got to fire Charlie Wade. Last couple of matches, lost one at Northridge, and I'll tell you what he has been able to accomplish, and the team and program that he has built at Hawaii, don't take it for granted. I think it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of expertise, and some really, really fantastic recruiting that has allowed them to bring in the talent necessary. And give a lot of props to Charlie, a lot of props to Milan and Capono and everything that they've been doing over there is pretty special.
I just want to add on to Pepperdine. I mean, their path to the championship match with the MPSF, first Grand Canyon, which, I mean, unfortunately, no one knew that was going to be Grand Canyon's last ever match potentially. Then they grinded out against UCLA 3-2. And then for the automatic, they beat USC, which was classic. I was working the community college championship match that night. I had it on my laptop, and everyone was behind my laptop watching that. So sorry, guys, but it was a big night. But they Ryan Barnett stepped up in such a huge way for the Waves, and what Jonathan Winter was able to do, and of course a home court advantage. Did you see how filled Firestone Fieldhouse was? I don't think I've seen it that full before, but that crowd was into it, and they have to get some credit for that win too. So.
How about as a former JC product, both player and coach, how about a little love for the JC champion? Who was it?
That would be Golden West College, the Ramblers. And you may recognize the coach, Nick Amato, All-American middle blocker from Long Beach State.
Nice. It's been a while since Golden West has won it. Good for you, Nick, and your team. Congratulations. That's an awesome win for you guys.
I think Aiden Powell was like MVP or something like that for Golden West, right? Is that right? I think.
Yes. Yeah. Was he coming your way, Dan?
No,
I didn't see him.
But I just wanted to throw his name out there and give the guy some love. Do you know what I mean? So like, yeah.
Well, the shocker, for me, I don't follow community college, but San Diego Mesa was in that final with them. And I mean, if you're to look at just the profile, I'm like, dang, this team is huge. They took the first set 25-15, and then I'm like, oh, this is going to be done 3 and out. And Aiden Powell just would not let his team lose. So, there's some really good talent coming out of the community colleges.
Yeah, well, I think Aiden Powell was a Long Beach guy and then went to community college. And then, who knows? Maybe he'll end up one of the programs on the screen. You never know. You know what I mean?
Theo's looking like, where? Powell? How do you spell that? Yeah, but there's some young guys on there. They're I guess freshmen, first years at the community college level. I'm like, wow, these guys didn't get picked up anywhere. But you know what? There's some really good talent in the community college game. So with that, we're ready to start talking about coaches of the year. Theo's ready to hit on Charlie Wade of Hawaii out of the Big West. Conference Carolina's Yigit Erkek of Mount Olive. Sam Schweisky out of the EIVA for Princeton. Of course, Nikki Sandlin out of McKendree in the MIVA. John Winder, Pepperdine. Mike Rumba, St. Francis in his swan song season as he retires in the NEC, and Larry Rather of Fort Valley State University of the SIAC. So, any comments on the coaches of the year? We got to give them props for all the hard
Well,
work
you
they're
got to
putting
throw
in.
Shane Davis in there. The guy comes back to men's volleyball and wins the league and then makes it the NCAA tournament. So I think his name's in that mix for sure. You know what I mean? So yeah.
I think he's a queen. We can't dethrone the queen.
Well, I'm not dethroning the queen. I'm just saying that as we talk about the ABCA Coach of the Year, you know what I mean? I think you'll have some names, all those names you said, and then you'll pop in a few more names. I think that are well deserving. I think from that standpoint. So I think that comes out maybe later in the week, give or take. I think or something like that. But no, Nick,
You're on the committee, you know, right?
I know some things. Yeah. So anyway, but no, Nikki had a great year too. But I know those are all great coaches doing great things.
Yep.
Yeah, I like you know, all of those guys are deserving of that award for sure for the accomplishments they had this year. I'm going to comment just on Larry Rather. I mean, you have taken a team now that, you know, up until just a few years ago never existed. And in the short time that you've been there, you built it into a program that is now the powerhouse of the SIAC. And you're at the big dance again. And like Belmont Abbey, they've been there before. They know what it feels like. They're no longer newbies and they're no longer blinded by the bright lights and all the people. Larry's a good coach and his dad's his assistant coach. That's a gnarly coaching duo right there. So, you know, I want to give love to all the coaches. I just want to give a little special extra love to Larry because he is one heck of a guy, one heck of a coach, and he's building that program the right way. So,
yeah, I'd love to echo that. We went down there and played those guys down at Fort Valley and just class act, doing things the right way, and you know, were super hospitable to us. And we had a team meal with those guys, and it was a great match. And it just, you know, I wish them the best. You know, Larry's doing a great job with Ed, his dad, and fantastic. And so, yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, I think what's also nice to point out too is Larry's been instrumental in just helping the SIAC, right? Like he's not just been able to get Fort Valley to a high level and make some great trips out west. And we were talking about it the last couple of years on this podcast. He's exposed his guys to some really, really high level volleyball, and you're starting to see it. You're starting to see the fruits of that labor. But he's helped grow the SIAC and get a lot of those programs to a place that they're starting to become a competitive volleyball teams and a competitive volleyball conference, I would say, amongst each other. And so it's really cool to see. And I think we all know Larry personally, but just a great dude and one heck of a coach. And it's been pretty cool to watch his journey.
Yeah.
Hey, I'd like to throw some love to some young coach on the screen here. His name is Theo. You know, you look at Theo's path, you know what I mean? And me and Jay would both be on the same page with this. But Theo, you've done a fantastic job in growing your program over the past couple of years after taking over and really put it at another level. So congrats to you. So
yeah.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that, man.
Well,
those are big words coming from these two guys, man. These guys have been massive mentors of mine for a really, really long time. So I appreciate that.
Well, I forgot to mention that Brad, who is also in the Big West, actually tonight is recruiting at a CIF San Diego section match. That's why he couldn't be on tonight.
wow.
But he's also
he doesn't get any love there. That's his fault. I can't help him out.
Slacker.
So good. But it's interesting that just by process elimination, and there only being 6 teams. I think I mentioned this to you, Theo. But one of the coaches said, "Oh, Brad and Theo get my coach of the year vote. If I had 2 of them, they'd each get 1." One of the longtime coaches said that, and I was like, "Wow, that speaks volumes." And so, great work by Brad and Theo for sure. I mean, it's been, it's a beatdown in conference play. Well, you guys did non-conference play, both your teams, and he took down some top 20 teams along the way, and just too bad we all have to beat up on each other in the Big West. So, hey, our next little segment here, I might be like outcasting Dan here, but ABCA All-American team was released. Did they get it right?
Yeah,
what do you think?
Yeah,
100%. What are you talking about?
End of segment. How about we'll put it like were there any surprises in those groups of names from first, second, honorable mention? Because I know you guys did something differently within the last few years to recognize more players. I remember you mentioning in a previous episode. So,
well, we expanded a few years. I haven't been on the committee for a few years. If you're back in the few years ago, I was on there for a long time. I can just tell you that it's still 12 and 12. When I left, we moved it from 10 to 12 on each team. And then the honorable mention is always kind of a little bit subjective to the committee, like, and somewhere is in between 30 and 40. I think there's so many great volleyball players that are on this when you're doing it. So I think I'm sure we missed a few as a group, but I think we recognize a lot of great talented players, and you could probably split some hairs between first and second team, some honorable mention and second team, but there's so many talented young men. I'm excited for our sport, where it's headed. And I think me jumping back on the committee and just kind of seeing how it flowed, I think the committee does a good job. So.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I think a couple people commented on that really wasn't surprising. It's surprising in the sense that it's the first time it's happened, but there wasn't a libero in the first team. It wasn't that surprising in the grand scheme of when you look at this list. There isn't a guy on that first team that doesn't deserve to be on the first team. I think it's unique, and it's kind of to the point of what we're trying to accomplish by expanding this list and trying to get more credibility. If you had this as an actual roster, I mean, this team could go and compete in some really, really ridiculous high-level tournaments internationally.
Yeah,
fantastic volleyball players.
I was on the committee for a few years, a couple years ago, and I do remember there was a libero on every team, and I'm just because I don't know why was there one omitted from the first team this year? Was that a new rule, or they just?
I think it was a new rule, because when I jumped back on, like, I'm with you, Jay. When I was on a few years ago, it was like that time the rules like, hey, a libero first team. I think somewhere along the lines between the last time I was on it, the rule change was like, hey, we have to at least have one libero in the top 24, but you don't have to have two if you don't feel like it's overshadowing another position that's got the talent. You know what I mean? And so conversations went back and forth. You saw some of the voting and the numbers and things like that. And I think all the liberos that we could talk about, 4 or 5 of them that are super talented and really good and kind of on that bubble. But then you get into like, hey, do they deserve it? Or the guys that were over first team. And that's each year, that's where a committee makes those decisions. That's why you have 14 coaches looking at the data and the numbers and trying to do the best that they can. And I don't know that, and you guys would honestly have to agree, I'm not sure any of those automatically you were like, hey, that guy's first team for sure. If you're putting somebody first team, or are you knocking somebody else that might deserve to be first team? And I think that's where it gets a little bit challenging.
And I would agree with that. That I think that's the real deal is people understand liberos, as valuable as they are, they're not either A, distributing the rock every point and they're touching the ball, and B, or they're not putting the ball away and scoring points. And that's, I think, something that people have to understand, that the guys that are on that list, they're extremely valuable to their teams. And it doesn't mean that liberos are not deserving. It just means I think that's a good call, that, if it was one of those years where there was maybe a player here and there that was kind of like, they could be second team or whatever, and you could find a libero who was just that good, right? You look at some of the ones over there in recent years, then I think it's the right decision. I would love to see how big that list was for honorable mention and how close all of them were, which is why I think the number grew to 44, if I'm not mistaken, is the number.
Yeah, I can't remember. I thought it was upper 30s, low 40s. You might be right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's they've all got to be relatively close. I could tell anybody out there who's listening who's never been a part of any of those calls or anything. It's a relatively simple system, and I won't get into the weeds to it. But when you get to the honorable mention, there's a large number of guys that are getting some kind of recognition, and they all have a point total at the end. And if you're all relatively close, then you kind of look at it and go, okay, what's that number? And are we okay with that being the group? If there's a large jump, right, between like player number 20 and number 21, it's like 8 points. And all of a sudden that becomes a natural distinction point. But those guys must have all been really, really close and deservingly so. There's some really good names on that list that you go, man, any other year, they could be first or second team All-American and not just honorable mention. So kudos to all the players out there, great job by you guys. You guys are well deserving of that honor.
Yeah, and I don't think
41 honorable mentions, just so you guys know. 41.
41.
Yeah. And we don't want to devalue, like, the liberos are super talented. Like, all those guys, you look at Choi and Dykstra and, you know, any of the guys, all those guys are super good. And our guy, Nico. And I think there's a statistical thing that's always tough. Like, it's like, where are their passing numbers? Where are their digging numbers? And where's the eye test? And then how does their team do, and where's the impact that they make on their team? And you're trying to evaluate that. It's probably one of the tougher positions. I think that in the middle, those are the two that are, to me, like, the other ones get a little bit easier because it's like, hey, you got points per game and kills and assists. And like, it's like, but when you get into those two other positions, man, they're tough.
And if you're in a team that runs a double libero system, you're getting half the stat numbers, and one of them is serve receive and one of them is digging, and you're kind of, you know, it just is what it is. And you know, I don't think there's necessarily any complaint about that, but it's a tough thing. And it's not a like a most improved player type situation. It's your honorable mention, you're deserving of that honor. You're an All-American. It's definitely
well, I was going to point out there's only one.
Go ahead.
What I was just saying, there's only one libero in the first or second team, but 7 listed honorable mentions. And I mean, all the names that are in the 7, like, those are all solid liberos. Like, they could have been in that 1 or 2. So I'm glad I was on that committee.
But Rob, I'll tell you, just researching the Big West players, right? The Big West liberos, there were, of all of the liberos, and we're talking about Ileo Choi and obviously, give me the Irvine 8.
Aiken.
Yeah.
Kelly Larson in Long Beach.
Aiken. Yeah. All of these guys, there was only one guy that had above a 42% side out percentage. First ball side out percentage. When there were tons of outside hitters that had those numbers. And so I think that had a lot to do with it, where you look back at like a Mason Briggs who was over 50% in his first ball side out percentage, and the impact that has on the game. And really, when you're talking about some of these high octane offenses that for the year were siding out at an incredible clip, the liberos were fantastic, but I just don't know that they were impactful enough for it to be obvious for first team. Yeah. And again, you look at that first team group, every single one of those teams is competing for the NCAA finals, except for one guy. Of the 12 that are on that team, all but one are in the finals right now. And so it'd be tough to say that those guys definitely don't deserve it. They do. They for sure do.
Yeah. Dan, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that middle is that other position. I think you had Cam that was on first team. And then was there another middle on first team?
That was the only middle on first team.
Yeah, I think it was another position that was it was tough. Do you know what I mean? Like, a lot of talented guys, but maybe not guys that were a step above, like Theo said. We talk about 11 out of 12 guys, you know, being in the NCAA tournament and point scoring and making impacts. Do you know what I mean? And so, like, but there was a lot, like Matt Gentry, phenomenal middle. Do you know what I mean? So, like, and he didn't quite make a second team, but like, man, that guy's good, you know, in terms of just what he's doing and the point production that he's doing.
Well, I think just thinking about it too, Dan, there's 3 setters in that first team, and that might be the difference this season, right? You've got 3 setters that were truly prolific in terms of their impact on the team and on the game. And maybe that's pushing out some of these other positions where we're used to seeing a high volume of outside hitters. But 3 setters and all 3 of them, I mean, we're going to see their careers go well beyond NCAA and into the professional realm. These players are just absolutely incredible. It's pretty cool.
When if you go past 10 years on this stuff, I mean, you look at influxes and there's more middles on first team. You got 3 liberos that deserve to be first and 2 on second. Like, I mean, it ebbs and flows. And so, like, and that there's always going to be people that are like, hey, this guy's in front of that guy. But honestly, I feel like the committee did a pretty good job, and they nailed a lot of good kids, and there's a lot of good talent to recognize. So,
and I can vouch for all the coaches that have been on that. They do it for the right reasons. They have the kids, best interests at heart. They're not trying to, submarine another team because they're in the same conference and they want to beat them in every chance they get. They're looking out for the kids' best interests, and these are well deserving.
I wanted to throw down the names of the middles just because there are only 3 of them listed, and that was obviously Cam Thorne for UCLA, but Dean Meyer of Loyola, and Darius McRaven of Long Beach State. So, and if you followed any of their numbers and saw them play, they're the real deal in the middle.
Don't forget Parker Tompkinson. He's
Is
on
he
there
floating
too.
in the back? Oh, my listing. Oh, that's right. My bad. Parker.
You got Matt Gentry, Parker Thompson. You got Theo's middle. There's more than that if you start diving into it. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
My favorite comment on the ABCA post was Stilian Delabosov, honorable mention. What the? Because he was.
I didn't vote, Rob. He hit over 500 on the year. Had like 360 kills. Maybe he needed to do more.
Only 500.
You need to hit.
Jay, he led I think he was number 3 in blocks.
Jeez.
Honorable mention.
Wow.
It's such a proper comment, though. I was like, oh, that's hilarious. I mean, I feel bad for him. I mean, but the fact of the matter, I think she came from another middle in the conference, too. It's like, Delabosov, an honorable mention. What the?
Man.
So he's getting respect of his fellow athletes. So
no love for the Valley.
Nicodemus led the country in blocks per game.
Yeah, that's right. They're one of the longest winning streaks in the nation. So
I think
it's just tough.
It's how
There's
tough.
12 guys on there. You go look at the second team and which guy are you taking off?
It's
let's see here.
They all belong. That's
I want no part of this conversation.
Anyway, I'm not going anymore. Just like,
yeah. Well, with that, we can always talk about all the players. It's been such an entertaining year, and we've seen some great numbers. But let's go to we've already had one opening round matchup, and that was Penn State at Damon. And Penn State with a 3-0 sweep. But how exciting for Damon to actually host that. I know there's some other things, collateral issues going on there, but in the end, it was a good match for Penn State. And I love seeing the haters on Penn State early on this season. Oh, what's going on? They're 0-6. They're gonna. I'm like, well, you know what? They got the automatic on the EIVA, and now they're humming. So, opening round match. What'd you guys think?
I think the better team won. I think Damon is getting better and better every year. If they can get Derek, their head coach, a full-time position and keep him there for a while, I think he can continue to build what Don Gleason built there for the prior few years and continue to make that a top program in that part of the country. I think they're joining the ECC, if I'm not mistaken. Is it the ECC?
Is that right?
Are they joining that conference with DU, Bill?
They might be. I can't keep track of all the movement these days.
Yeah, there's it's crazy. It's like the P4s of men's volleyball. But I think them and DUville are joining the ECC, which
that would give them 6 then for the ECC.
I believe so, and I think that will bode well for them because they're going to dominate that conference for a while. But the NEC is still going to be a good conference. There's still good teams in there, and but Derek did some nice things this year. So hats off to Damon for hosting, but Penn State took care of it in 3 straight, and they're getting back to the dance again, and we'll see what they can do against Hawaii.
Yeah, I want to definitely talk about Penn State a little bit, and I want to put things in perspective for the people listening. That Penn State team has 3, arguably 4 head coaches on that roster. And if you were counting them out, you are sadly mistaken of how talented that crew is. They've played in their last 10 matches. They've won 9 of them. They're 9-1 in their last 10 matches. And against Damon, they hit 422. They are boiling hot right now. And where that leads them, I have no idea. But I'll tell you what, that coaching staff never gave up. They are built for those down moments. And they got this team back going to a level that is pretty darn impressive. And even going back to the win against Princeton, that was fantastic volleyball. And they're playing some great ball. And to hit 422. They've got essentially in that match, they had 3 guys in double digits. Luoma has really come alive and hit 385 on 26 swings.
Yeah.
I mean, they're playing some great volleyball right now, and it couldn't be a better time to be doing it and to be playing at that level.
That's going to be, I think, the deal for them against Hawaii. They need Luoma to play well. The matches that they do not do so well in, Luoma has kind of went away, and then they put in their the backup Truby, and he's good at times, but he's not the answer. And so they need Luoma to be good. They need Coons to be good. Coons keeps him in rhythm.
Wait. Our breakdown, though. I don't want to jump too far into it because the way I want to go through our quarterfinal matchup is for our fans.
Oh, I'm getting there. I'm talking about Damon. Dang it. Leave me alone. But and then they got Mark, and then they got Rose. So when all those guys are firing, that's why they beat Damon the way they did. And we'll see if they can continue that. Now we can go to your.
All right. So the way I wanted to approach this is if someone is new to watching men's volleyball in the quarterfinals here, I want you guys to pick out some of the key names to watch out for in the matchups. So I was going to go through each of the quarterfinal matchups. That would be the first match is the number 3 seed UCLA against number 6 Belmont Abbey. So just with you guys on the screen, who should people watch out for, and what can you envision these teams doing that opening match?
Look for Puentes from Belmont Abbey. He's a feisty little competitor. He's got a heck of an arm, and I think he's the guy that can help Belmont Abbey move on. I think for me, if you're watching UCLA, see how Zach Rama does. If he's doing well from the right side, they're going to be a handful because Cooper and all those guys, they're going to be good. But is Rama going to be at that next level again? And he's been there before, and he's a good player. But that's the 2 players that I'd be looking at for those 2 programs.
All right, so that's Jay's got Rama and Puentes. How about you guys?
I think the guy you want to look to is Charles too, for Belmont Abbey. The outside hitter who's has been pretty dang solid for them. But in that last match that they played against Mount Olive, he hit 412, was killing the ball at 52%, and had 10 kills. I mean, he played really, really well and was a big part of the kind of the balance to what they've been able to do. And Puentes has been kind of their guy and is definitely their biggest weapon. But I think Charles is a guy who kind of balances out the floor for them a little bit and makes that offense hum a little bit easier. And then I agree with Jay when you're looking at UCLA, Rama's a big part of it. How will they use Sean Kelly, I think, is another piece. But the most important one is the experience part. And Ito David has been such an integral part to their offense and what they have been able to accomplish in the past 2 seasons. And so is he healthy, and is he on the court, and does he bring that senior experience to help these guys make another run? I think it's going to be really, really interesting to watch.
All right. Dan, you got some brewing there in the hopper?
Well, I think Jay and Theo hit on both Belmont Abbey. I do think from the setting standpoint, that their setter for Belmont, I think it's Morris. Can he distribute the ball in good positions if they get knocked off the net from, UCLA serving from that standpoint? And I just think so I talk about the 2 setters, then you got Andrew Rowan for UCLA, and how does he kind of get his team into a groove and get him off to a good start, and super talented himself. And so talking about the 2 setters and how they run their programs as they get kind of going into the match and put those teammates in a good position.
Well, they've been running Rama out of the opposite with Kelly and Robinson out of the left for UCLA, but no one has mentioned Cam Thorne. And if that connection is there early, he is one scary middle to come at you. And McQuibbin is 6'10". How do you get around that mass? So could be a big night for UCLA, but they don't have that serving power that Ito David provided from the service line. So anything else about the quarterfinal between UCLA and Belmont Abbey? If not, we move on. All right, that brings us to number 2 Hawaii facing off against number 7 Penn State. Who are we watching for on both sides of the court, and what's the keys to the success for those teams?
I mean, I think we covered Penn State just a little bit, but I think on the Hawaii side of thing, Rob, you alluded to this many times. Kurt Neuscher, and he's always been in the clutchest moments for them. He's been electric, and has held a lot of the emotional steam for that team. The outside hitter position has been a bit of a revolving door, but with Finn Kearney and the emergence of him on the opposite, or is Tristan Tiskry, what's his name?
Tachisky.
Oh, it's
Tachisky.
like
They're not going to let you back on the island. You better learn that.
Trisky. With Christian Tatiskry.
Wow.
Anyway,
Wow.
opposite.
Just say ketchup.
Cheers.
Ketchup.
The opposite with the rolled ankle. Okay. It'd be interesting to see if he's back in the lineup because he's been so good all year. And I think some of the challenges that they ran into and some of the losses that they held, including the one to Santa Barbara late in the season, a lot of that had to do with them having to figure out things without him. And I think with the emergence of Finn, it smooths things out for them. And Tread Rosenthal is obviously the key focal point. If he's humming and things are going really well and he's putting that ball at a good pace from the service line, I think Hawaii's in a really good spot.
Yeah. Anyone else, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, Adrian Roars plays a big piece, you know what I mean? So it's like, as he settles in. But I think, you're going to have some younger guys, their first tournament match, and how do they settle in the first game, being in Columbus and playing what you say, when you talk about this, like Penn State may have a couple of young guys, but you got an experienced coaching staff and a couple of experienced players over there. And so I think that first game will be interesting between these two squads. Like, does Penn State come in and coming off a hot kind of like streak where, Theo talked about 9 out of the last 10 games and kind of put some pressure on Hawaii, and how does Hawaii settle in as they get into the match? And they've got certainly enough talent to crush anybody, but I think it'll be interesting to see kind of that and how long it takes them to kind of work into it a little bit.
Listen, Penn State probably collectively has the most head coaching experience on their staff with Pat Schwarn, who's been a prior head coach, The Rock, who's been a prior head coach, Pav, who's been a head coach forever, and Colin, who's an associate head coach, who should be a head coach. That is arguably the best staff experience-wise in the country. They ain't playing the game. They're the ones that just kind of tell you where to go and how to work and get there. Here's where I think the rubber's going to meet the road for that match. It's serve receive pressure. And Penn State has arguably, one of the better liberos in the country, and Mark, who can obviously pass the ball pretty well, and Coons is not a bad passer, but they are going to face a service barrage from Hawaii. And I don't have the numbers in front of me. Maybe somebody can look at it, but the serve receive numbers from the first match that they played when they were in Hawaii, man, I think that's going to be the difference maker for me, is how well can Penn State handle the service pressure from Hawaii. If they can handle it and Luoma's having a good night, taking some pressure off everybody else, then yeah, I think you're right, Dan. I think they can steal that first set or second set and all of a sudden put a little pressure on Hawaii. But if they can't handle the pressure, then it's going to be a dominating fashion by Hawaii. And I think that for me is going to be the difference.
Well, Penn State's 32nd in the nation in aces per set, Hawaii at 9, just under 2 aces per set. So they can fire from the service line.
Yeah.
Anything else on that matchup? The team is going to, once Hillier graduates, that's going to be the team. He's too French. That's going to be Louis Sakanoko and Adrian Rohr, who Adrian Rohr, first team All-American this year as a freshman. So let's jump over. Number 8 seed Fort Valley State versus number 1 seed Long Beach State. Dive on in, gentlemen.
I know everybody's going to talk about one guy, so I'm not going to talk about him. Let's talk about Skylar Varga from Long Beach State. He has really established himself this year as one of the best outside hitters in the country. So for Long Beach State, that's who I'm watching. If I'm watching Fort Valley State, there's 2 guys. I'll talk about one, so I leave one for somebody else. That's Isaiah Fed. Kid's got a cannon for an arm. He jumps well. He's quick. And, I know he's a guy that other coaches have looked at, and could he be at another roster somewhere else? Sure. But he stayed at Fort Valley, and look what he's accomplished. I do want to talk at the end of everybody's thing about this match, though. So I'll leave that up for everybody else now.
Yeah, I agree with Jay. I think with when it comes to Fort Valley, it's Hicks and it's Fed. Those two outside hitters, they're really the meat and potatoes of that offense. And I can tell you right now, the serving that they're going to see is going to be pretty elite. It's going to be pretty next level. And so I think their middle blocker, Martin, who has been pretty good for them most of the year, I think he'll be less of a factor in terms of how out of system that they're going to be. And then I agree with Jay. The conversation with Long Beach is going to be about Varga. And if you look at their offense, and specifically in that match that they lost against Hawaii in 4 at Hawaii, Varga hit 115. Every single other hitter was over 400, including Moni Nikolov. So their offense was exactly what it's been. But Skylar Varga was a little bit different. And I think the weight of the season, the challenge that it is put on for sure for Nikolov, and we've seen a little bit less pop out of him recently. It's going to be interesting to see if those guys, a little bit of rest, paid some value and gave them the ability to be at full strength and maybe to gain some momentum through this Fort Valley match.
All right. Well, I'm surprised one name hasn't been dropped yet. And I mentioned this because after Irvine gave Long Beach their first loss of the season, the piece they inserted that I felt made them even more powerful as a team, Alex Kanda, freshman outside hitter. He came in 14 kills, didn't get his first error in the second night match until the third set. And he's continued to produce well over 400 and be a bomber from that service line. Another freshman Bulgarian that's on that Long Beach roster. But please, anything else on that matchup to you guys? Not me. Nope.
Yeah, I thought Dan was going to mention Moni because we left him off the list.
You guys covered so much so well. I thought Moni was just kind of the quiet, like, oh hey, that guy's pretty good. You know what I mean?
So here's my quick comment. This year may not be the year, but mark my words, everyone. Sometime soon, one of these two teams, if they continue to come to the dance, they're going to advance past your team. I'm just telling you now. Be ready for it.
Ooh, look at that. There we go. So we're ready to move on for our final quarterfinal match. That would be the number 5 seed Pepperdine versus number 4 Loyola of Chicago.
This one's
Jump on it.
I like this one. Go ahead, Dan. I know you're ready.
I like listening to you guys, but like I certainly know Loyola. So.
All right, I'll go. Yeah. Screw you guys. I'll go. Yeah. Here's the difference. The first time they met, Loyola hit 438, Pep hit 262. Fabakovic 324, Parker Van Buren 459, Nico Myers 714. That first match, Harkey hit 475, pretty good. Ryan Barnett only hit 200. Now, Ryan Barnett since then has found a new rhythm and a new groove. This is going to be the match of the day, if you ask me, that we will all be glued to, because it wasn't a 3-0 beatdown from one of those teams early in the year. It went 5. And both teams are arguably better than they were then. You want to talk about the dogfight? This is the dogfight, and it's going to be so much fun to watch.
Ooh, look at that, Jay. Good
I'll
stuff.
go after that, and I'm gonna add a little something different with this one. So, looking at Pepperdine's 3 matches that it took for them to win the tournament. Okay. In those 3 matches, Grand Canyon, UCLA, and USC, Pepperdine hit a whopping 212, which is shocking. If you ask any one of the coaches on this panel what you're going to need to do to beat UCLA, USC, and Grand Canyon, 212 would not be our answer. I promise you that. Okay. So that's really interesting. Then you compare that to Loyola and Loyola's last 3 matches, right? They are hitting 428. I don't think this match will be as close as we think it will. That's going to be my prediction for this match. And obviously, some major differences between these two teams. But if you look at the stats, and stats don't tell you the whole story. Cole Harkey, in his last 112 swings, is hitting 100. Whether he's dealing with some injuries, whether he's going through some stuff, I don't know. But if that remains to be a trend, this Pepperdine team is going to have a tough time because the opposite on the other side of the net is first team All-American, and he is the real deal. Parker Van Buren is going to bring it. And I think it's going to be a fun match to watch.
I just have one question about the hell of a stat, by the way, Theo. Who are the three teams? We know the ones that Pep played. Who are the three teams that Loyola played to get into this dance?
They played Ohio State. They played Lewis, Mr. Dan Friend over here, and they played Queens. So not the same three for sure. But even if you take the Queens match out of it, they hit 437.
Oh, went up.
They are humming the last two matches at least against top tier opponents. They're playing some great volleyball, and they haven't lost a set.
Wow, good stuff right there. If we were on Around the Horn, I'd pump up your points right now, your point totals.
I think the thing to point out too is Parker Van Buren had his last four matches: Ball State 22 kills, Queens 10, Lewis 22 kills, Ohio State 15 kills. All of them 360 and above on his hitting percentages, on top of the amount of aces he kind of clicked in on that, which was around 10 total between those four matches. So I think if you compare Parker and Cole right now, I mean, Parker was playing at a level that I hadn't seen him consistently play all year. The last four matches, he was pretty darn good. So I think that could be, I think that's the piece. I think that's the piece where you watch the first game. If Parker's finding that extra gear where he's OT hitting on teams and Miguel H just feeding him balls, Pepperdine could be in trouble. Do you know what I mean? In terms of, I don't know that Hartke has that extra gear yet. Maybe we'll see it. But I've seen it from Parker.
That's the cool part, right? Like Cole is a freshman, right? This is his first time in the mix, and this season is really, really long. All of these players find that out quickly. Parker
I think I'm stoked for Parker. Like, if they didn't make it this year, Parker would have gone his whole career and not made the NCAA tournament.
Wow.
You know what I mean? That guy's super talented. So I think, super proud that he was able to make it and kind of see if he can make his mark now once he gets to a tournament. But remember, Loyola hasn't been there for a couple of years either. Pepperdine, I think Pepperdine's last time was 21 with Dave Hunt, right? If I'm correct. Yep. I have to go back and look. Do you know what I mean? So it might have been Columbus.
That's last year on the men's side.
Yeah, might have been Columbus because they made it to the semifinals on the opposite side of us. This is why I know this fact. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Well, I'm going to approach this from a different take. Looked at the social posts once, which this would be another side topic. NCAA volleyball hasn't posted a thing on the championship. So, but
why you got to put me in a bad mood, Rob? Why you got to put me in a bad mood? I was all happy.
It's not an actual account. It doesn't actually exist. What are we talking about? Like you're gonna bring it up like it's not a real thing. Did you create that account, Rob?
No, not that one.
Yeah, well, I'm just so it's like, we know where that
goes. I want to say, so men's volleyball recap created a chicken graphic. I don't know if you've seen it, promoting the 8 teams, or actually 9 that are in the NCAA championship. But one of the moms commented, and I'm here for it. Brendan Reed and Jake Reed's mom said, "What am I to do as a mom? Who do I root for? First round matchup, Loyola versus Pepperdine." And she's torn. So,
well, I got some good news for her. Somebody's going to go on.
Shocker. Somebody's going to make you feel good. Somebody's not.
So, but those are the 4. They start Thursday, and it's an early start, 11 a.m. Central, I believe.
Get out your omelets, everybody. We're going to get rolling.
11 a.m.
So,
Eastern, right?
Eastern, yeah, because Ohio State's in Eastern. And the All-American banquet Friday night,
Yeah.
semi Saturday, and the championship match for the first time ever on a Monday night.
Take the day off on Thursday. Grab yourself a Bloody Mary. Make yourself a nice fluffy omelet and a couple of links of sausage and bacon. Watch the first match. Roll into the second match. Get yourself a cold beverage of choice. Grab a couple of hot dogs and sit there and enjoy the madness. And then take a nap because you got a little break. Take a little power nap. Roll right into the third match of the day. Get yourself another frosty beverage of choice. And then order yourself a big fat steak and a hot potato. Make yourself a nice dirty martini and roll into the final match of the day because that's what this guy's going to do. It's going to be awesome, baby.
I'll tell you what, if we were predicting 73 toll road, remote controller, Waterloo soda, Loyola in 5.
Whoa. Lakers in 5.
Man.
All right. I'm not going to make you guys make predictions here or pick a
I
bracket.
think we should, Rob. I think that is.
I think we should.
That just
Yeah.
makes no
Okay.
sense.
I wasn't respecting your
We got no
colleague
skin in the
coaches,
game.
but
There's
hey,
gotta
if you
be
want to throw them
something-
under the bus, hey, I'm all for it.
Part of
Just
our
so you guys
job.
know,
There's got to be something to talk about in the next episode.
Yeah, when we
All
see
right.
these guys on the recruiting trail, how else are we going to start a conversation?
all right. So predictions. Oh, Dan's jumping off the
You
call
did?
now. He doesn't want to be.
Chicken.
My name's K. Dolby. My name's Chicken. Chicken and banana. Chicken and banana. Let's go, baby.
All right. Let's make this our end right here. What's it going to be? Pick your match winners and who's going to be in the final. And Jay, since you're all fired up from the food that you mentioned, go jump on it.
I think Long Beach State's going to meet Loyola as well. I'm calling Loyola as well in that match. I think it's going to be Long Beach Loyola. I think Long Beach is going to take that one. I think Hawaii and UCLA are going to come out of their matches and they're going to meet. And I'm going to call UCLA. I think UCLA has got the goods to make it back to the finals. It's going to be Long Beach, UCLA, and I don't really know who's going to win that one because I've seen Long Beach kind of sputter a little bit here and there. I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say UCLA 3-peats.
Woo!
Take that.
Woo! All right. The fidget spinner's been dropped. That means that's the authority. All right. Who wants to go next?
I'm not going. I'm on the committee. I'm just going to
That's unbelievable, Dan. You know what? That's unbelievable. All right, I'll go next. I got UCLA over Belmont Abbey. I got Hawaii over Penn State. I got Long Beach over Fort Valley. And I got Loyola. And I got Loyola over Pepperdine. In that next round, I think things get interesting, but I think Long Beach pulls that one off. And then I think I disagree with Jay. I think Hawaii upsets UCLA in the Final Four. Then we get a rematch of the Big West Finals. And I think Long Beach takes Hawaii this time. And no longer is it on the island. Hawaii fans, don't kill me. But I think Long Beach wins a national championship.
Wow. There we go. And Dan's on the committee, so he can't do it. And coaches don't like him anyway. So
Rob, you got to go, buddy. You got to go. Let's go. Step it up.
Come on, Rob.
Come on, Rob.
I got too many players I respect on all the rosters.
You can't hide
You're not
behind
even-
the
Rob,
mic.
Rob, we
Rob,
still
you're not even here
respect
this
them.
time. It's not like you're at the banquet or anything, so you can do it. Here we go, buddy.
We still
Forget to hide.
respect them.
All right, here we go. I'm predicting all Big West final.
Whoa.
And I am torn on what that's going to be because I'm the guy that likes to see the impossible happen. I'd love to see Hawaii win it just because that means they would have beaten Long Beach State 3 times this season, which, I mean, that's a remarkable feat to beat them once this season. But Long Beach State is so stinking good. And I can see Al making a little tweak here and Moni getting a little, because reality is he's gone after this year. He's going to go Richter at this tournament. And
He's
I think that's
transferring to
the X
Lewis.
factor.
If that's the case, Dan, I'm not scheduling you.
Well, yeah. I forgot to tell you guys I'm retiring. So.
Yeah, so I don't know about that championship match. I have to see how they play in the semis. But
You
I think it's
can't
gonna
do
be
that.
okay.
You can't
Rob,
see how
Rob.
they play and then make your decision. None
Rob,
of us have seen the other teams play. We made our decision.
It comes down to this, Rob. Does Long Beach make the adjustment of Skylar Varga hitting above 300? And does Finn Kearney have the ability to carry Hawaii for 3 straight matches?
As a freshman.
Yeah. So based on that, I'd say Long Beach. But I mean, Hawaii has that extra gear and they're going to travel. At Mason, the Hawaiians were in Northern Virginia. How did that happen?
I thought
And they
Mason
could-
moved to Northridge. No? All right. Sorry. Inside joke, everybody.
Rob, this better not be you trying to get clicks from the Hawaii fans. They already
Right.
love you. They already love you.
Well, you know, I it's hard for me to pick. I'm so stuck on that because seeing both of them play, it's the way everyone's tweaked everything, and they've been just as good with no matter what they put on the court.
If Hawaii is at full strength, they're going to be a handful no matter what. But they've
Yeah.
got to be at full strength.
Yep. So I'm gonna cop out on that final. I got you. I need my clicks.
You got no spine. No spine, Rob.
So we have
Hold on,
gone
Dan
really
hasn't
long.
gone yet. Hold on.
What?
What?
We're dragging Dan into this. Come on, Dan.
Great. Penn State, Belmont, Abbey, Fort Valley State, and Pepperdine. I'll just go opposite of all you guys. How about that?
I'm doing this. I've gone out. There's no way.
Lakers in 5.
Anyway, I'm not doing this. I'm out. See ya. Oh, wait.
Okay, Theo's gone.
Theo's going
He's
to get
got
a
his
hot
drink
dog.
fridge at home.
Getting a hot
I don't have
dog.
any ketchup. Can't have a hot dog.
Don't worry, I mailed you some ketchup from Chicago.
All right. Well, with that, everyone watch this week. Men's volleyball is going to be on Showcase. We're going to see some incredible matches. Actually, I think they're all going to be incredible matches because last year at Long Beach, seeing Fort Valley State play with the heart that they did, man, they won me over. They were grinding. Belmont Abbey as well. They were, first timers. It just was a great scene for the tournament. I feel like they're going to do the same this year. The teams they're going up against have been really kicking it into gear. Pepperdine, who would have thought? I mean, and here they are in the national championship tournament.
Keeper to nay.
I just think, hey, a lot of it's on ESPN. So, like, this is the first time I think the quarterfinals, semis, and the finals are all on an ESPN platform. So, tune in. I think the more people we can get to watch, we continue to grow the game. So, as many things as sometimes we're negative about, where, hey, the field's not big enough. Hey, the All-American teams aren't big enough. Hey, you gotta go support the game and watch the games on ESPN and give some love out there. And so I think
I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to mention what's really cool about the fact that all of these are on ESPN. It creates a baseline, and we've talked about this all year. And I know there's mixed opinions about it, but the number one thing that we could do for this game is to get some consistency across the platforms. And knowing that the national championship is going to be on this platform, it'd be great to see as many teams as possible playing on it. And I know that sounds biased because we are an ESPN Plus school and in conference, but it would be great if all of these games were accessible. And it's just awesome to see the finals and the entire Final 8 be available on ESPN platform.
And in great Spartan form, do yourselves a favor and turn all of your TVs on in your house to that channel. You automatically multiply how many screens they see or watching the game. It's a win-win. You got 8 TVs in your house, turn them all onto the channel and just watch the one. But hey, you got to go to the bedroom for something, you can still watch the game. You got to go to the garage for something, you can still watch the game. But if everybody's TVs are turned on and left on that channel the entire day, everybody sees that men's volleyball is a viable sport that they should be watching. And we get a little bit of traction, maybe. Who knows? It's a little marketing genius.
Yep. All right. Well, with that, we're going to end our episode there. We're going to have at least one more episode next Monday. I'm assuming I have to put out that polling thing that Dan had suggested to find out when everyone's available. Oh, no, it's going to be before the championship match. We got to do it after the championship match.
Doodle poll, baby. Get a doodle poll going. There you go.
Doodle poll. That's what it was. So that's Jay Hossick and George Mason, Theo Edwards of CSUN, and Dan Friend of Lewis. Brad Rothschild will hopefully join us from UC San Diego next week. And LFG, hashtag NCAA MVB. So that's what Jay's got on his little screen. If you guys are listening, this is not the After Dark version of the podcast because Jay's just on fire right now. So with that, gentlemen, I'd say good luck in your matches, but we're all knocked out. So enjoy watching. Dan's working hard in Columbus on the committee, doing committee stuff, and looking forward to seeing what comes out this week in Columbus. Peace out, gentlemen.
Thanks for listening to College Volleyball Weekly. Be sure to follow Rob Aspero at the Rob on the Mic on Instagram and at Rob on the Mic on Twitter.